Hi, you're on Rescue TV. I'm really thrilled to bring you Lisa Messenger in our Inspirational Women series on the eve of International Women's Day. Lisa, to many of you, is a very familiar personality, an incredible entrepreneur, a huge champion of women, both locally and internationally. She's the author of many, many inspirational books, the publisher of The Collective, and a woman that in many circles needs no introduction. But today I hope to bring you a little bit behind the veil of what makes this very incredible entrepreneur tick, and for her to share with you some of the things you may not know about her, because in the polish and the format of social media, we kind of have a sense that we know everyone so intimately, but it's what you don't see that makes the incredible stars dazzle. And I'm thrilled to bring you Lisa Messenger.
Thank you, my beautiful friend. Well, hopefully I'm one of those people who's not too polished and truly authentic across all channels, and what you see is what you get. So let's go for it.
I think one of the, living your life in a public bubble, and you have to put yourself out there to a certain extent when you're in the publishing business, or, you're an author of a book, you do speaking circuits. There's a lot that people know about you. But perhaps some of our audience don't know the story of the pre-public Lisa Messenger, when you fell and then you reinvented yourself.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm constantly falling, and as I like to say, failing fast. Yeah. And sometimes not so fast. But yeah, I mean, I think hindsight is a wonderful thing. And so many people, and they would ask you this as well, they're like, tell me about your career and your trajectory and what were the steps. And actually nothing for me in sequential order makes any logical sense whatsoever. I mean, I was a horse riding instructor. I worked in conference and event management. Like, I had so many things that were not to do with my current iteration of my career at all. And then
and yet you found yourself on Necker Island with Richard Branson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anything is possible for everyone.
Anything is possible. I mean, I grew up in Coolah, which is, 7 hours central west of Sydney, on a property riding horses and motorbikes, a far cry from anywhere. And I think it was from that background that, I got quite grounded. And then there were lots of things that happened throughout my career that kind of gave me more strength and, tenacity, and got me to where I am today. But as you know, it wasn't just about the career trajectory. I mean, there have been so many personal things for me, from, making a conscious decision to give up drinking alcohol 13 and a half years ago, going through a failed marriage and then finding the love of my life now, not talking to my family for 3 years. I mean, this is many, many years ago.
And if you stop to look at that, there's a lot of people who can probably resonate with that. Most people have lots of personal crises, drama, sadness, and also like these offshoots of incredible light.
Yeah.
But we don't expect it from people we admire.
Yeah, well, in my experience, and that's all I can talk about now, it is those times of darkness and the times that nearly drop us to our knees that, if we can flip them, are absolutely the tools for change, and we can use them to fuel us and drive us forward. And that's been a huge mindset shift for me. Throughout my whole 20s, I was living life according to other people's expectations. Something would go disastrously wrong and I didn't know how to deal with it. And then slowly over time, I built the tools and the resilience and did lots of personal development. And
what do you do for personal development? Because I think, relationships are hard, whether they be with your family or with your friends or with a partner. Business is hard. University is 3 years mostly for people. So it's such a starter course.
Yeah.
What do you do to develop your skill set? Because you don't go from being a horse rider to, a publisher that's been, published all over the world. What were the things that you taught yourself? What were the key things that other people taught you? What do you do to upskill?
I think it's whenever those tough times hit, it's having the courage for me to actually look at, well, what is that, whether it be personal or in business, and then I either surround myself with extraordinary mentors or people who've been there before or that I admire, and I draw on their skill set and their personal experience. Or sometimes I'll go and immerse myself deeply in, you know, an ashram in India and just get really quiet and still for a while. So it really depends on what's going on for me at the time, but absolutely we cannot do it alone.
I'm going to ask you about that because you now have this incredible network of mentors that you can draw on. You are in a position where you can take yourself off to an ashram. For those people who can't, what would be your suggestion? You know, to Lisa 20. You know, if Lisa was 20 now, what would you do to educate yourself if you can't get like an incredible? You can't ask Richard Branson to mentor you. You can't. You know what? You have access to captains of industry, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah. So I think there's two things on that. One is just finding out what your triggers are and what isn't working for you, and knowing what actually calms you down and grounds you. So that's number one, because there are really simple things that anyone can do. For me, it's about going to the beach pretty much every day at the end of the day and washing it away, or meditating, or getting still in nature with my partner and my dog. So they're things that anyone can do, and they don't cost a cent, and you don't need to be tapped into captains of industry to do it. And the other thing is, I guess, it's just starting to educate yourself or starting to expose yourself to different people who can actually assist you. Now, on that, I will say people often go about that the wrong way. They are kind of like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? How can you help me? And everything, in my experience, is based on relationships and the slow build. You know, how can you help someone? How can you be of service? And then over time, they'll no doubt notice you and start to help you in return. So there's so many different things, but I mean, it's just slowly. You know, you're not going to meet Richard Branson today and he's going to start mentoring you. I mean, that for me was probably a 25-year journey, from reading his book to finally meeting him, to being given the opportunity to pitch to Rich. And while I watched everyone ask him very, very complex, can I rebrand my entire company Virgin? I just said to him, can I send a box of Collective to Necker Island every month? I made it easy for him to say yes. Make it easy for people to say yes. I mean, that is the simplest advice. And now, and you would experience this as well, being an editor of a global magazine and many other arms to that publishing business, I would get pitched to 100 times a day plus. And, you know, a lot of it is, help me, I'm awesome. I'm like, that. Bin. But if they actually say, this is what I have to offer, this is what I can offer your community, and here, hey, I'll do it for you or whatever. Sure, absolutely, it's a yes every time. Make it easy to say yes.
I want to go back to what you were saying with Richard Branson, because I think that that's a really nice anchor. You read his book. That was a first step.
Yeah.
And that's self-education.
Yeah.
And Collective has been very much about that, and RESCU is very much about that. So talk to me about how you've self-educated yourself, and you know, your vision for that and kind of your purpose that has become educating people.
Okay, so where do we start? So in simple terms, I think for me, it's about getting clearer and clearer on what your own personal purpose is and what your why is. And for me, that's taken a long time. But as I said, in hindsight, when I look back, it's really never changed. It's just iterated over the years.
And what's your why?
My why is to be an entrepreneur for entrepreneurs, living my life out loud, showing that anything's possible. So that's kind of like, I'm here to serve in whatever way that is. I'm here to live my best life, and they fit very well together because both of them kind of seed and feed each other. The more I push myself and fail fast and fail publicly and talk about it and be vulnerable and authentic, the bigger life I'm leading and the more exciting it gets. And it's also extraordinarily hard in equal measure every single day.
And don't you find that if you are kind of doing it that way, more people want to help you?
100%. So to try and reverse engineer that and simplify it, I mean, Collective and Lisa Messenger stand to ignite human potential. It's 3 words. That is it. I think people get really overtly complex about, you know, I want to do this and I'm a bit of this, I'm a slashy and whatever else. If you start with something really, really simple, then the delivery mechanism becomes completely irrelevant. And that's a really important point because we've talked about this. whilst I started with a print magazine, Collective may well not be that soon. Everyone's shocked. But it doesn't matter if it's a print magazine or if it's a digital platform, or we're making fantastic content like this, or I'm speaking or writing books, or I'm on Twitter or Instagram or a myriad of other things. It's like, be where people need you, on a platform they need you, at a time they need you. And, you know, let's see about the print magazine, because quite frankly, the industry is becoming slightly antiquated, and I was a disruptor when I launched that 5 years ago. If and I'm talking to everyone here, if we all want to stay relevant and keep disrupting and be ahead of the curve and the trend, then sometimes we have to break things and be courageous enough to do so, and know that there's something much more exciting ahead.
One of the biggest lessons I learned in my life was when I failed quite spectacularly and quite publicly in my first business. And I nearly went bankrupt when I was 35.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's actually the most painful memory of my life. And I've had lots of other things. You know, I'm an immigrant. I've been divorced twice. I had a very scary pregnancy. Lots of, you know, good and bad things have happened. But to me, that was truly like a hugely painful experience. And the way that I got over the pain was when I very, very clearly admitted, first to myself and then to anybody who would ask, that I failed.
Yeah.
And I didn't gloss it over. I didn't blame the GFC, although it happened in the first 4 months of the GFC, all of that. I just said, you know what, I failed. I didn't do all the right things. I didn't future-proof my business. Do you think that owning your mistakes and just clearly saying, well, that was a stuff up, that's useful in growth? Or because sometimes it feels like people are in such a whirling dervish state. They're moving on to the next thing, but not actually saying, hey, that didn't work. And I too can fail.
100%. I have shivers down my entire body listening to that, because I think there is something so liberating when we just say out loud. And actually, this has been my entire journey. I mean, in conjunction and parallel to everything that's been going on with Collective Hub, as you know, I've been writing books pretty much every 6 months saying this is the journey. So I've it's been the most liberating freaking thing I could ever do. You know, how to break up. I wrote a book about breakups. Let's hope I never do that again. But I've tabled my journey, and what's happened is, in doing so, I think people have fallen more and more in love with the Lisa Messenger. I have to talk about myself in third-party person, because I'm just real. I'm no one special. I'm going through stuff that everyone goes through every single day. It's just that I'm voicing it, or I'm giving a voice to it, and I'm making it okay, and therefore giving permission to other people to do the same. I mean, I'm about to have, I would say, what could be classified as a fairly spectacular failure, but you know, I'm okay with that, and I'm ready to consciously create the next thing, which will be bigger and better from all the learnings. Now, I say consciously because it's very easy for us to get tied up, as you just kind of talked about, and we see this all the time, in the ego part of it, and oh my God, I've failed, I've got to do something else. Well, let me tell you, time and space and stillness is a much calmer, more reflective place from which to actually create the next iteration. But be unafraid, because things in business, in life, are moving and changing at such a warp speed at the moment that it's okay. We're all going to fail. We're all going to break a lot of stuff along the way. We just got to be brave enough to get up and start again.
Well, on that note, I wish you a very happy International Women's Day, and I can't wait to see you fail spectacularly, but also rise like the phoenix that I know that you will, because you know, by someone like you putting a label on it and putting a voice to it, it gives all of us permission to say, hey, you know what? Yes, absolutely, some things don't work, but some things absolutely knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my beautiful friend, and thank you for all your support. And it's because of this. It's women supporting women and people supporting people and humanizing everything. This is why we do great stuff. So that is a lesson to everyone.
Thank you.